My name is Igal Hecht. I'm a director, producer based in Toronto. I've been making films about 12 years now. I've made 46 documentary films. I've made about 18 or 19. I've been involved with about 18 or 19 television shows. I teach a local college here, Canada's largest college, Seneca College School of Communication Arts, where I'm a graduate of, and I've also been teaching there for about 7 or 8 years now. And the majority of my documentary film, my personal documentary political films, have to do with contemporary Jewish issues and issues surrounding the state of Israel. Some of my projects from the past that deal with Israel include films such as Banished, which is one of the only films that ever dealt with what happened to residents of Gush Katif after they were expelled from their homes after the Gaza disengagement. It aired in Canada, it aired in the United States, it actually continues to air. It was an investigation that really dug deep into what happened in terms of the media, and how the politicians really sort of just cast these people, the settlers from Gush Katif, off to the wayside and stopped caring about them as if they weren't part of Israeli society.
Today, in 12 p.m., we will decide about the second phase of the disengagement plan.
I did the first film ever that dealt with Sderot, that got aired internationally. Back in 2004, I recognized that the missiles that were falling on Sderot were not going to stop and probably were going to expand. And when I went to Sderot and shot a small little film called Qassam, which I didn't know what was going to happen with that film, and then the film basically got accepted into a lot of Jewish organizations, and when the Operation Cast Lead occurred in 2009, they actually used the film. I've made films about Messianic Judaism, controversial films. I've made films about the political Jewish left. There was a film called Not in My Name, which caused a lot of controversy, and nobody on the political Jewish left really liked the film, nor did the political Jewish right really like the film. So, films about Israeli nightlife, films about anything that deals with Israel in the last 10 years, I've covered. And also films about the Jewish experience in the diaspora in North America. The Hilltops is a documentary film that I started producing 5 years ago. 5 years ago, after the Gaza disengagement, I wanted to make a film specifically about the residents of Judea and Samaria. Internationally, they're known as settlers. So I wanted to make a film about them. I didn't know what the film was going to be. So I started speaking to a lot of the leadership. I wanted to earn their trust, and it took about 2.5 years to do that, and it took 2.5 years to sort of form the idea in my mind. And then in late 2008, myself and my cameraman, who is a brilliant Israeli filmmaker by the name of Lior Cohen, decided that it's time to start filming that project.
Assalamu alaikum. The United States does not accept the legitimacy of continued Israeli settlements. This construction violates previous agreements and undermines efforts to achieve peace. It is time for these settlements to stop.
We will never stop.
They want to shrink our country. They want to take Jerusalem from us. They want to take our country from us.
It's a question of accepting Jewish sovereignty.
Israel is a country where there is rule of law. And if there has been construction that has been done outside the parameters of the rule of law, unauthorized construction, it has to end.
The settlement movement in Judea and Samaria, that the movement has grown and expanded, partially as a result being persecuted by the government.
It would be so much easier if we were mean and ugly and violent, but we're none of those things.
The battle is not lost because we believe that the majority of the people do not want to give up the land of Israel.
Gotta protect my freedom, gotta protect my family. It's the first rule.
I'm completely ill-equipped to fight with my own country.
אבל לא נשתמש בכוח לפנות אתכם מפה.
חבל להתקדם פה עכשיו, אין לך מה להיות פה עכשיו, יש פה צבא עובד.
How far is too far? Pushing a Jew out of his home in the land of Israel and demolishing his home because he's Jewish is too far.
It was an exciting film to make. It's not a conventional film by any means. It's the issue has been covered many times on the news. Israeli filmmakers have covered it. International, Canadian, U.S. filmmakers have covered it. What makes the Hilltops, I believe, different, and so do other people, festivals that are accepted into, is that it doesn't demonize the settlers. Not that it pays them any lip service, not that it's a propaganda film by any means, but what it doesn't do is come there with a state of mind, hey, you're evil, you're wrong, nobody should listen to you, and let me now make you into a caricature and demonize you. What it does is challenge them on many issues, but at the same time allows them to speak their mind and really portray an accurate accurate portrayal of their vision of what their beliefs are, and at the same time showing their lives, their daily lives, as they embark on their political activism, as they embark on their lives on those hilltops in the West Bank / Judea and Samaria. I would call The Hilltops a very controversial film, but again, it all depends on what you see as controversy. You know, it's a very subjective thing to say. I didn't set out to make a controversial film, although the topic itself lends to being controversial. Lives, I'm sure the people who live in Judea and Samaria in the West Bank don't see their lives as controversial. They see it as a daily life, just like people who live in Montreal, just like people who live in Toronto, just like people who live anywhere. I think there's no quick fix to the Middle East. We live in a generation and an age where people just want a quick fix. It's like our news. They want a bloody soundbite, and that's it. Here's the fix, people. Here it is. Here's the Band-Aid solution. And what they offer is a Band-Aid solution, but here it is. Here, let me just throw something at you. Go sign a piece of paper, and there's peace. Look, Israel made peace with Egypt almost 40 years ago. 30 years ago, I apologize. 30 plus years. The Egyptian cultural community doesn't recognize the state of Israel. They shun any Egyptian artist who works with Israelis. Majority of Egypt under Mubarak's rule didn't even want peace with Israel. So Israel makes peace with Egypt. They have a cold peace for 30 years. Is that peace? Is that what peace is? What is peace? I think that's the largest context. Does peace mean me as an Israeli going to eat hummus in Syria? Does peace mean that Iran's not going to be backing Hamas and blowing and making sure that Israeli students and children get murdered in their homes or get bombed on their buses? Alternatively, does peace mean that Israelis continue having checkpoints and making Palestinians' life miserable? I mean, what does peace mean? Is it a piece of paper or is it on the ground? And I think that unless you live there, you don't really know. So I don't think peace is attainable in the immediate future. I think what is attainable in the immediate future is negotiations. And if you actually think about the Middle East peace process, and it's not even 20 years old yet. The Israeli and Palestinians started talking in '93 through the Oslo Accords. That's not even 20 years old. Look at Ireland, for God's sake. That's a 600-year peace process, and that's not even done yet. And I don't understand this focus, this intense focus about peace, 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 peace. Let's just throw that word in there. Let's make Obama actually, warrant his peace prize. He'll bring peace. We don't need you don't need to have that wrong thrown. What you do need is a cessation of violence. What you do need is people to understand that violence is not the answer, and you need to talk. And the solution is very simple. Look, the solution is extremely simple. People know what the solution is. They don't want to say it. They don't want to throw it because then you automatically isolate yourself into some sort of political sphere. But the solution is very simple. There's going to be two states. One state means, and I have no problem saying that, if people in Judea and Samaria want a one-state solution, it means the end of the state of Israel. And it's actually in the film. We have two settlers fight over that. One state or two state. There's going to be two states. You're not going to make 3 million, 2 million, millions of Palestinians go anywhere. The Jordan option does not exist. Not in the world that we live in, nor will it ever exist. You're not going to make 6 million Israelis, Jews, go anywhere. So the solution is clear. What you need now are leaders who are going to actually step up and say, look, this is it. This is the let's not use that word, but this is it. This is the solution. We can't go beyond this. And we either continue in a state of war to kill each other, or we end it. And yes, there'll always be violence. And yes, there'll always have people who oppose it. But I believe that on both sides, and I'm not trying to be a tree-hugging lefty. People who know me know that I'm not. And nor am I an extreme righty. I'm a rational human being. And rationality dictates that you can't have a situation where there's an ongoing state of war where people are dying. I mean, you can. But that should not be the solution. The solution is two states living side by side, territorial compromises. Jerusalem, I personally believe, should be taken off the table. The Palestinians' notion to Jerusalem never existed during Arafat. He was willing to take Abu Dis. So some administrative control over particular areas, and that's it. Right of return means a small number of people, and then that's it. But it doesn't just mean the Palestinians. How is the Arab world going to react? Is Iran going to continue funding Hamas and Hezbollah? Is Syria going to continue funding and arming Hezbollah? It's not just the Israelis and the Palestinians. That's why people blame the settlers for a lack of peace in the Middle East. It's just a silly, idiotic, propaganda-filled rhetoric. Iran funds Hamas. Israel left Lebanon. You get Hamas run Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel leaves Gaza. You get Hamas. You get Iran runs Hamas, arms them, etc. in Gaza. So if Israel just leaves the West Bank now, and there's no sort of Arab initiative as well, then what? You get an Iran-backed Hamas, PLO, whatever it is in the West Bank, then Israel has to return, so more people die. I mean, to think that it's just the settlers is silly. The settlers, the people who live there, will ultimately have to make compromises, and I think a lot of them already know that they will have to make compromises, and they know that the bulk areas are going to stay. But the solution is there. It's been there since Barack offered it in 2001. And Arafat passed on it, since Olmert offered it in 2007 and Abu Mazen passed on it. The solution has always been there. We're talking a few kilometers, a few things that could have been fine-tuned. But I would say that the Israeli government has offered it. I would say the Palestinians have passed on it. I would say the Israeli government has done wrong. I would say the Palestinian government has done wrong, and that ultimately, after I've answered this roundabout answer, ultimately the people there suffer because no leader is willing to step up and say that's it. No leader on the Palestinian side and no leader on the Israeli side. There have been past leaders, I believe, on the Israeli side, like Rabin, like Barak, like Olmert, who have. And I believe Netanyahu is coming to a point where he can't piss off the Americans way too much that he already has, that he will step up. Now the question is, will there be somebody on the Palestinian side that can step up and guarantee peace? Because peace does not just mean the West Bank, it also means Gaza, which Abu Mazen doesn't control. Hamas controls Gaza, and Hamas's charter is to destroy the state of Israel. So before people start blaming the settlers for everything, take a really long look into what's happening. Avoid the rhetoric, avoid the propaganda, and you'll see that it's not so simple as throwing in the word leave, no more settlements equals, no more occupation equals peace. My future projects. Yeah, I'm taking a break from politics, which is great, because after making the Hilltops, I just had enough of politics. It was a long few years of making it. So I'm looking, I have a few projects that I'm doing, and I'm looking for that next controversial, meaty topic right now. I'm going to go to Israel, do some research, and look for something. But right now I'm doing a 52-part series for an American and a Canadian channel called Musica. And what it is a biography show about Israeli musicians. So every week you'll have a very different Israeli musician. Anyone from David Broza to Achino Amini to Dag Nachash to Asaf Avidan, the who's who of Israeli contemporary and past music, who are still active and working. It's a great project. It's fun. I'm going to Israel to shoot remaining episodes in the coming months, and it is just a fun project. No politics. All it is about great music, wonderful artists talking about their great music, staying away from politics, which is wonderful because I need a break from it. And like I said, I'm also researching new projects. I'm hopefully gonna have the Hilltops. The Hilltops will be showcased at Hot Docs, which is a huge documentary film festival in North America. It's the biggest documentary film festival in North America. It's my second year in a row. So the world premiere will be May 1st, and then it'll be shown May 4th. It'll also be shown at the Toronto Jewish Film Festival, which is great. It's where I started my career, and I owe so much to the Toronto Jewish Film Festival. It's a wonderful film festival. And then hopefully it'll be shown in a number of other film festivals. Have reached out and have seek to see the film. The documentary channel in Canada is going to broadcast the film nationally at some point in the coming months, and just working on other projects, hoping to get as many projects as I can. I love making films, and I'll continue to make them.